Well, in Genesis chapter 15, after Abraham had met Melchizedek, we have a situation where he's going home, and the God gives him a message. I am your shield and your exceeding great reward. And Abraham says, well, wait a minute. What are you going to give me? I don't even have a child. You've made all these promises to me, and the only heir I have is a servant who was born in my house. And God says, no. He that comes forth from your own body will be the heir of all these things. And he brought him outside. And God said to Abram, look towards heaven and tell the stars, or count the stars, if you're able to number them. He said to them, that's how your seed will be. Now in verse 6 of chapter 15 of Genesis, it's a verse that's used in the New Testament several times. It says, he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. This is one of the early and consistent things we've seen in our study, that you trust God, you believe in God, you trust that he will provide a way for you, and then you are saved. Now it's interesting that Abram had really not done much of anything at this point as far as anything he can do about having offspring, but a promise came to him from God, and he believed what God told him. He hadn't really done anything yet, but believing what God told him was counted as righteousness. As we know now from the New Testament, it's by grace you're saved through faith. It's the gift of God. It's not of works, so no one can boast. Here, this word comes to Abram, who will later become Abraham, and he believes it. Now, he still wants to know a little bit. Down around verse 8, he says, now how am I going to really know this is true? I believe you, Lord, but is there any other more concrete indication you can give me? And God does an interesting thing. In the rest of chapter 15, he tells Abram, oh, look, you prepare some animal sacrifices, you split them apart, and lay one side from the other. Now, so what's going on here? They're setting up an ancient covenant or promise, agreement. Sometimes it could even be called a treaty. But it's where two sides make a commitment to hold up their promise. They make promises in a covenant, and they agree to do it. How did they do that? In those days, they would part sacrificial animals, and the two people making the agreement would walk back and forth between the split sacrifices, and that was the way they were confirming and covenanting what they said they will do. Now what happens in chapter 15, Abram does all this work, and then he gets very sleepy, and while he's sleeping, he wakes up and sees like a burning lamp, a smoking furnace passing between the pieces, and he's lying there asleep. This is why I call this a one-sided proposal. God is saying, do you want to know how my promise will be kept? It's because I keep my promises. You just lie there and sleep. I am going to do what I promised to do. And it's not really dependent on you. I told you I would do it for you, and I'm going to do it. So, doesn't matter that you're sleeping there. I am making the commitment to give you all that I've promised. Very interesting parallel when you go to Matthew. In Matthew 26 and verse 44, in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus has gone to pray twice, and he keeps coming back and finding the disciples asleep, Peter, James, and John. And in verse 44, he says, again, he left them and went away, pray a third time, according to the same words. And then he comes to the disciples and says to them, oh, you can sleep the rest of the time. Take your rest. The hour has drawn near. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hand of sinners. Now Jesus said, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. And here he tells the disciples, you know what? The time has come. It's okay if you sleep, because all the work is up to me. It is up to me to fulfill my promise, and it's what I will do that will make the difference. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. And Peter had said earlier, hey, even if they bind me to die with you, I'll never deny you. And no, Peter, it wasn't your job to die with Jesus. It was the job of Jesus to die for you, Peter. And he does learn and understand that. Read the epistles of 1st and 2nd Peter. You'll see he gained a very good appreciation of what happened here. We are saved because of what Jesus did for us. He promised he would do it. He did it. And our salvation is based on what he did. So as we trust him, it's not our goodness. It's not our works that saves us. It's not how much we've done. It's what Jesus has done. And we rest in what he's done. And we are saved by his promise. My thoughts for today. Thanks for listening.